Welcome to Scrambled, your space for fertility, owning your 30s, and the scramble that makes it all worth it. All right. Welcome, everybody, to our first ever episode of Scrambled, the podcast. My name's Ashlee.
I'm Alyssa.
And we are making this podcast for you because, why, Alyssa?
We are hoping to raise awareness around fertility struggles for young women.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just going to use this episode to intro what we're going to be chatting about each week, talk about why we personally felt like we were maybe the right people to have these conversations, and how you and I even came to be friends and to be sitting here on the couch today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should probably start with you, Alyssa, because you are the brains behind the whole thing.
Okay. Sounds good. It did take me a while to get Ashlee on board, but I finally did, and now we're going head first.
Took about 6 months and a bottle and a half of rosé.
Yes. And hours of technical difficulties, but we're here.
My goodness, guys. This isn't the first time we've sat down to record this specific ep, but each time we do it, we're becoming more professional. So I can only assume with every ep, hopefully you guys are going to get better quality episodes.
Correct.
It can only go up, baby. All right, Alyssa, who are you?
Okay. How did we meet and who am I? So I am 31 years old. I've been living in New York City for the past 10 years. 2 years ago, I went to the hospital actually because I had pain in my lower left pelvis, basically. And they saw that I had an ovarian cyst rupture, which is super painful. It can just happen randomly. Sometimes if it's big enough, you need surgery. I luckily did not.
Okay.
But they do take ultrasounds when that happens, and they send your scans to your everyday doctor, who for me happens to be my gyno. And my gyno called me in. We went through my scans, and she mentioned, I'm not a fertility doctor, but I'm going to connect you with a clinic because your scans are showing that things are not looking great. Things are low. At this point, I don't really know what that means. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I'd heard about egg freezing, but not much.
What year is this all going down?
This is 2023 probably. Okay. Yeah.
So you're in your late 20s.
Yes. It was actually 2023 and 2024. Okay. It was like end of year, like October through May-ish timeframe, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, went to the fertility clinic that my doctor connected me with, got my levels tested, got my blood taken, get the call that basically says you do have a very low ovarian reserve. Most people around our age should be an AMH, and we can get into what this means later, of at least 1 and above, if not 2 and above. They told me I was at 0.2.
Okay, so significantly lower than what they told you the average is for the age that you were at the time.
Correct. And of course, the first thing I do is go on Google after, of course, the doctor confirms this, and 0.2 AMH is representative of someone who is 50 years old.
Wow. And at the time you're 20?
I was 29.
29.
So okay. I was like, how did this happen? And I'm thinking of my mom, and she had me when she was 33 and had my younger sister when she was 37 or 38, no issues at all. So I'm like, where does this come from? What's happening? On my dad's side of the family, there were definitely more issues and more IVF cycles.
Okay.
Not much on my mom's side.
All right. So can you also talk me through, at this point in your life, you're 29, you're living in New York, you go to the doctor for pain, turns out that's a cyst, that winds up in a fertility office, yes. You're talking to a fertility specialist.
Yes.
You're hearing all this information. Where are you at in your life at this point? Are you single? Are you wanting kids? Like, what's going on?
So at this point in my life, I am single. I still am. Since I was 10 years old, I've wanted a baby. You can ask my dad. I am always saying, I want a baby. I need a baby. I'm ready for a baby. I got a puppy when I was 25. I just have that like maternal motherly instinct.
Okay.
So hearing this information obviously hit hard and sent me into probably the deepest spiral and depression I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
For a couple months, because we were talking about starting an egg freezing process, but before that happens, you have to have insurance approve your meds. You have to get your meds shipped to you. You have to wait for your next period cycle. So, and you have to go off birth control. It was all a waiting game. And for me, the anticipation anxiety of, will I get eggs? How many will I get? Will they be healthy? Which I still don't know. So that's, of course, another anxiety. But that was basically just weeks of panic and weeks of worrying. And weeks of me thinking, will I ever be a mother?
Right. So basically, you're 29, you're sitting there, you're being told all this information, you're being advised that the best option for you is to try and preserve your fertility through egg freezing.
Correct.
And you're kind of spiraling for the next few months because while you're waiting for next steps, you're just thinking, what is this? Like,
What
I'm
is
not,
this?
yeah.
And also, what does this all mean? And
where does this come from? Like, it's tipped
where
your
does
life
this come
upside
from?
down at 29 years old.
Yes. And during these couple weeks, as I started talking to people about it, opening up about it, there are more people my age than I thought who have actually been through the same situation and who have low AMH. So I was connected with friends of friends, cousins of friends, people who had been through this before. And that helped because it was like a little support system and I made friends through it. But at the same time, there were no resources for me, podcasts, Google, people my age, aside from these few people who talk about this. And I believe this is why we're here. If there were two girls who are in their 30s, can talk about this situation, and I could listen to it and relate to it, that would have been the most helpful thing in the world.
Right. Because at the time you're going through it, what were you going to as a resource to try
My family.
And they had not really experienced anything like this.
Correct.
before.
They were like, what does this mean? Then my sisters run in to get tested. It's just like, what is going on? I also was put on an anti-inflammatory diet. So I've always eaten whatever I wanted, but they said, okay, no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, limit your alcohol, uninflame your pelvis basically, and see how we can get the best results.
Aside from this pain that resulted in you finding out that there was a cyst, prior to this, were you having any like gynecological issues?
Well, no.
No, there was no like obvious red
There was
flags
no
for
obvious
you
red
at
flags.
29 to think, oh, I wonder what my fertility looks like.
No, I've always had horrible periods and horrible cramping. So I've always been on birth control for that. I was off of it at this point because I kind of just wanted to clear my system out. But then when I got these scans, it's very hard to detect endometriosis on an ultrasound. They actually did see signs of endometriosis on this ultrasound, which likely means I have it and I have it pretty bad. Endometriosis can lead to infertility. Bad pelvic pain, period cramps, all of that, all signs of it, but nothing outstanding that I've like lived my life being like, ow.
Because really up until this point where you had the pain and that resulted in having an internal ultrasound, which created the red flag for your doctor initially, up until then, your gynecologist had never said to you, like, let's talk about your fertility. Like, you're 29, you're relatively healthy.
No.
There was no real reason for you to go and investigate your fertility.
No, and again, freezing my eggs had been like a topic of conversation or kind of on my mind because I was turning 30, I was single, and I was like, just as a security blanket, let me freeze them. But I thought, as everyone else does, you'd go in, you'd do the shots, you get your eggs retrieved, boom, done. I never thought I would be going in 4 separate times to get my eggs retrieved, and each time getting, I don't know, anywhere from 3 to 7 eggs. I thought I would be 20 and done one time.
Totally. I think a lot of people can relate. This has certainly been my experience in my opinion towards my fertility in my life is I've taken it for granted. I spent the whole first part of my life actively trying to not be pregnant.
Yes.
And then you just take for granted that one day when you're in a different position and maybe you want to become a mother, that at that point will just work out.
For me, I'm like, why did I spend my whole life on birth control?
Correct.
Well, that was for my period, but like still.
But you
But
do
still.
it because at the time you don't want to
You
fall
don't
pregnant.
want to be
You
pregnant.
don't think anything more about it. I think we all think at some point, especially in our early 20s, like if we look at a boy, we're going to fall pregnant. Like it's a genuine fear. We're all
Correct.
like, I'm not ready for this. I don't want this right now
People
in my life.
are taking Plan B. People are on birth control. You're doing everything you can not to get pregnant. I actually am back on the IUD now, funny enough, because the hormones keep the endometriosis at bay.
Yeah. So that's your treatment for your
Yes.
endometriosis.
Yes,
Right now.
unless I wanted to get the surgery. I'm just not in the market to do that right now because that's the worst surgery ever, apparently, and you can't walk for weeks. So no, thank you. No, thank you.
You're like, I've had enough anesthesia recently because of your egg journey, which we'll get to in a second. You're like, just no, one issue
step
at a time.
Also, funny enough, my fertility doctor actually said she doesn't want me getting the endometriosis surgery because although it could help you get pregnant naturally, it can also scrape away your ovaries. And sometimes when they like flash burn, they quick burn the tissue off, it can ruin your ovaries there too. So she was like, let's stay away from that for now. Okay. So it's twofold. Moving on though, how did we meet?
Great question. Yeah. So I feel like your story that led you up to that point to get to a fertility clinic is kind of the groundwork of how we even met each other, which is funny in itself. But essentially, I actually work in fertility. I'm a nurse in a recovery room. So after you have had an egg retrieval and you wake up, you're looked after by nurses. And I am one of those nurses. And I actually was your nurse, Alyssa.
Yes, you were.
So I met Alyssa as a patient, and it's not often that I become friends with my patients, but I just really felt connected to Alyssa because at the time that I met you, you're telling me your story. We're the same age. At this point, I had done no investigation into my own fertility, and my heart just went out to you. I was like, what a strong woman to put herself in a position that she is like relentlessly trying to deal with an issue that's, oh my God, stop. I can't look at people when they cry. Because I was
I haven't
like,
cried about this topic in years.
well, this is
Here
going
we
to
are.
be, what is it,
It's
cathartic?
triggering.
It's like,
Yeah.
get it out. We'll laugh, we'll cry, this whole thing. We'll just be raw with you guys, be real. Yeah, I just met Alyssa and I just felt really connected to her. And I was like, what a brave woman to be able to get this really tough information. And I felt so, I don't know. I think I was in awe because I was like, if this was me, I don't know if I would have. You were optimistic. You were scared, but you were really, really optimistic. And you were all about doing something about the issue that you were facing. And I just like really connected with you and we just got chatting. So actually, we've got pretty good senses of humor. I think we're very aligned in that way, which is probably why we connected really quite quickly. And I'll often use humor as a way to try and distract people as a nurse in general. But Alyssa really was just a big fan of my jokes and I don't need much encouragement.
Granted, I had just waken up from anesthesia. I was drugged up.
You were drugged up. And we were chatting and you were saying like, I'm single. And I was like, interesting. I'm not. I'm married. And I have 3 brother-in-laws and a sister-in-law. I was like to Alyssa, why don't you just marry one of my brother-in-laws and then we can be
First time we
sisters?
met. First time we met. And me being me, I'm like, yes, show me a picture.
Yeah,
right
you're like,
now.
show me a picture of them. And I was like, look, I think the only age appropriate one is the one that's just below my husband in the order of their births. And so I was like, here he is. He is an Aussie. He's living in London. I showed you a picture and you were like, yes, yes, yes. And I was like, I don't know. I love you, Carl, but there's a few red flags. I was like, I wouldn't say he's like quite boyfriend material at this point anyway. I was like, he's just like young, living his life. And you were like, I love toxic men. This is great. You were like, I love unavailable people. So that's kind of how we bonded initially. I was like, great. So now we're patient, nurse, friends, future sister-in-laws. Side note, this hasn't happened yet. We haven't become sister-in-laws.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, what? No. So now we're just friends, co-hosts, and ex-nurse-patient relationship. But yeah, we met and just kind of hit it off. And we got chatting in the recovery room while you were recovering post-anesthesia. I'm surprised you remember much of this because you seem to remember a decent amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pretty good.
You were pretty with it. Yeah. And we were just talking about like, you felt like there just wasn't enough resources. You felt like a lot of people you spoke to couldn't relate or just didn't understand. Even the way at that point that I was relating to you at that initial conversation wasn't on a personal level. It was more of just like, I have knowledge of what all of this is about and I'm happy to do what I can to chat with you about stuff. But it wasn't like a personal experience thing. And you were saying that's what was lacking. And I said to you, I was like, actually, I've just listened to a podcast and we can probably put the link to this podcast in the show notes, but it's a scientific based podcast. So it was good. And I found it really good because I have a scientific background. Obviously, I've done a bachelor's of nursing, but I did say it'll be good for you to listen to and try and understand more on a scientific level, but it wasn't super digestible.
Right. I need someone my age, 29, finding out they might struggle to have kids. That's who I need to talk to right now.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what has spurred us to get to this point because, you know, you had a few more retrievals after that. We became better friends. We started to hang out and have dinners and wines together and we would have more and more of these conversations. And you said to me, you were like, this friendship started as a podcast. Mm-hmm. Listen to the way we talk every time we catch up. We need to be a podcast. We need to record this and give it to the people.
And how many people, since I said that to now, have come up to you because we're at the age of having kids or freezing our eggs, being like, help, I need to talk about this. What is egg freezing? How do I do it? How many questions? I mean, I just had a friend go through it who had to call me every day because I love the fertility clinics, but it's like a factory in there. Like they are seeing patients left and right, boom, boom, boom. And if you have a question about something, it's tough to get a hold of someone.
Totally, yeah. And the resources that are out there and that are given to you by the clinics are really medical based. And that makes sense. That's the advice you get in any industry. They give you the most professional level of advice, but that's not palatable for the average person. I feel like personally, I'm a big podcast listener. I love to learn from them.
Right.
I'm hoping the goal of this whole thing is for us to just be really real, have real conversations, and we will also do our best to get you answers that are from experts as well. So we'll definitely be bringing lots of guests onto the podcast. We want to know what it is you guys want to hear about, and we will have them chat with us. But we're going to ask them questions in ways that we hope make it digestible to our listeners, because we want you guys to find valuable information and not feel overwhelmed.
Right.
The whole goal of this is to make it easier for people
To cope.
Yeah, but I will say you definitely inspired me to just go and find out more about myself. So at the time I met Alyssa, I was married. I had been married maybe for a year at that point. You kind of made me realize, like, we don't know what's going on. We take it for granted.
Yeah.
We live our lives hoping not to get pregnant, and then one day maybe we do want to get pregnant. But my personal journey has been that maybe my mentality's changing a little bit now that I'm a bit older than I was when we met. But at that time, it wasn't on my radar to become a mum. I think it would be an incredible journey, but I just haven't had that longing desire my whole life, like you described, as a 10-year-old wanting to have kids. I think I've seen it in my future, but I've never needed it and really felt like it was the next step for me. And so getting married didn't mean for me that I just wanted to go and have a baby right away. However, chatting with you and many other people that I met through my job made me realize, hey, it's not the worst idea. I was close to turning 30. I'm thinking I should just go and get a general check. Yeah, have a blood test, maybe have an ultrasound, just see where we're at. So chatted with my husband about it. He's probably a little bit more maternal than me, so he was all for it. He's like, yeah, let's find out. And so we went and had a consultation, and similarly to you, I was a bit confronted by my results. I was also told that I have a low ovarian reserve. I don't think my doctor gave me an age of which he said my ovaries were behaving. So I probably could have gone on Google and traumatized myself as well.
That's exactly what I did.
But essentially, I had a relatively low AMH and a low reserve of follicles when they did an ultrasound on my ovaries. There just wasn't as many as you would expect to see on someone of my age. So the advice from the fertility doctor that did these tests for me was that we should either try and have a baby really quite quickly, I think he said in a 12-month time frame, or to really think about looking at IVF as an option, even just to preserve our fertility if we weren't looking to try and conceive for a few more years. And at that point, we certainly weren't. So we ended up doing an IVF cycle. A little bit different to Alyssa. She was single at the time, so she did an egg freezing cycle. Yeah. I was married and I'm still married at this time. So we did an IVF cycle together. So we have frozen embryos. So we skipped that to that next step and now have frozen embryos, and you've got some frozen
Which is even more of a security blanket. It's one step further.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is we'll have doctors come on and chat about different options for people, but they can probably talk more about what their advice would be to different people in different circumstances, because something that we'll get into for sure is how individualized people's fertility is and how important it is to have conversations with doctors about what everyone's specific options are, because it's going to differ from person to person. I'm sure even I'm very lucky that I work in the fertility world, so I have access to quite a few fertility doctors and was able to have different conversations with different docs. And actually 2 different doctors at my own clinic said they probably give me slightly different advice.
Interesting.
So that's at the end of the day in medicine, you can be given advice, but it does come down to the person and what they choose to do with that advice as well, because you do have autonomy about your decision making. Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah. So I think that we feel relatively able to sit and have these conversations with people, and we're happy to be really vulnerable because we just want to take any taboo out of the conversation around not just fertility. We even discuss, I have friends in my life who have opted to not have children, and I think that's a really interesting conversation as well. So we kind of just want to use Scrambled as a way to talk about the scramble that we all are going through in life. We're all
Yes.
making different decisions. We've all
Yes.
got different paths.
We'll bring males into this. We can talk about male fertility, LGBTQ community.
We want to try and cover all bases. In saying that, if you guys are listening and we're not covering something that you are interested in, or you have specific questions, you want us to elaborate on any topics, I think especially as we start to bring different experts on and have conversations, there might be bigger conversations within the ones that we're having. And so I think we'll always drop our email address at the end of our podcast. And if you guys want to write in and give us any topics, we've also got an Instagram.
This girl doesn't go on Instagram, but now she's starting to, and she's posting stories on her personal account, practicing for our Instagram.
I'm practicing for the future of Scrambled.
You
I'm
are.
all in.
You are.
TikTok, I don't.
Oh,
really
I
dabble
got
in.
it. I'm on it all day. I got that part covered.
So we're going to try and cover all bases, so you can find us everywhere and reach out to us in multiple places so that we can talk about whatever it is that people want to listen to.
Yeah.
We're here for the people.